Praise be to Jesus and Mary. You're listening to Returning to Catholic Roots in a New Age World, a podcast hosted by Holly and Mandy. Let's begin our show. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Holly, and as always, I'm joined here by my mother, Mandy, and we're happy to be back for another week of Catholic Roots in a New Age World. We'll begin our episode by saying, Jesus, meek and humble of heart, make our hearts like unto thine. So, ready for a new week. Kids are back in school here in Canada.
Yeah, we're
just dropped them off this morning.
We're doing this on the first
Tuesday,
day of school. It's
September
July.
the 3rd.
It's Tuesday, July.
Feast of Pope St. Pius X today.
Is it? You went to Mass.
Yep.
I didn't.
Didn't.
I was going to. I had plans, but sometimes other people change your plans. And this is one of these cases.
And that's what happens. But yeah, so but you'll be obviously listening to this on Thursday, but and I did want to just give a special little shout out to a couple new friends of mine, some girls over at the Teens and Faith podcast.
Right, you were on their podcast.
I was on their podcast last week. A guest, they asked me to come on and be a guest on their podcast, and they're just doing a really good job sticking with it and trying to create something nice for teens. So yeah, if you have teens, go give them a listen, give them a subscribe, and put it on for your teens to listen. A lot of it's obviously tailored to teenagers, so it's a little out of my, I'm an adult, but what I'm saying is if you have a teen, put it on, let them listen to it, and you never know, because they asked me my advice on how to make good Catholic friends and where to meet people and stuff. And, these are the things, you listen to the podcast, you get involved, you maybe make friends outside of your country or whatever, make good Catholic friends. And I lost my train of thought. But anyways, it was an honor to be on there and talk to them. They're very delightful girls, and I admire them for trying to start something.
Yeah,
at such a young age.
Too, I'm gonna say, if you have teens, it really is difficult to get them friends, even young kids. It's very difficult. Like, we have a lot of kids at our parish now, but that doesn't mean there's a lot of friends.
Right.
So you have to pray for that, and not just pray. Do some sacrificing.
Yeah.
Do some sacrificing. It started with your daughter, right, Ava?
Yeah.
And she didn't have any friends.
No, none.
And it was very heartbreaking. And if there were some girls, but for some reason she didn't click with them, and that's kind of what friends are, right?
Yeah, you gotta
friends
click.
is somebody that you click with.
Yeah.
Not just somebody that you're together with because you're forced to be together.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And so you were really, really praying hard.
Well, it was just hard to watch her.
Solution.
Especially because, we have a big family, and she has lots of cousins. There's no shortage of cousins, but they're too little.
They're too little. And
she's
she's
10
with
and
them,
under.
and they love her.
But it's not, she can't confide in them. She can't, she can't, when you're a teenager, especially a teenage girl, and you have girls that you really click with, and they're your friends.
Right.
I guess that's where the word click comes from.
Yeah.
Not that I'm encouraging clicks. But what I'm saying is you have that, I'll use the reference from Anna Green Gables, that bosom friend that really gets you.
Right.
And that you can talk to and you can confide in, and you can, girls do need that.
My bosom buddy called me yesterday.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, all the way from Michigan.
Oh, okay. I was like, who's your bosom buddy?
But there's people, and I've met people throughout my life that I've just clicked with.
I'm going to say gel. You gel with them,
Well, so it was really a hardship for us.
Mm-hmm.
And so...
just watch her wander around with no friends.
And it really was kind of affecting her psychologically, too.
Yes.
To not have any friends. It's really a heavy burden.
And I will say it's one thing if you don't have any friends and there's no friends to be had.
Yeah.
But when there's people and they have friends, but you don't gel with them,
yeah,
that's even worse.
right.
Like, it's
and that's
like,
nothing personal.
it's nothing personal. It's just, you just don't, you're not going to, you of course have to be charitable, but you're not always going to find a camaraderie in people.
Yes, right.
That's totally normal. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Just certain people, you always be charitable, you always be kind, and you always, that's why they're called acquaintances.
Right.
That's why there's such thing as an acquaintance. Oh, there's so-and-so, lovely lady, but that,
Well,
you're not always best friends with somebody.
Well, we were making a huge effort to find her. I always throw me in with you. I'm like we. Like I have a say. I'm just the grandmother. I don't really have a say. I just pretend I do.
She does.
But we were.
She tries. No,
we were really making a huge effort. We got connected with somebody in Michigan that had a daughter about her age, was the similar situation.
And we went down there, they got together and gelled.
And they did gel. It took a while. Like remember the very first time we went there?
It was both two very quiet girls.
And they just stood there and looked at each
other for the first day.
At least.
Yeah.
If not longer. Like it did take a little bit for the gelling to
occur.
But we went and visited them last week.
And she didn't want to leave.
I
had to tear her away from her friend.
And also too, she found
she found there was a new family that come to the parish, and their daughter, Ava, and her went on a nice little trip this summer.
Yeah.
Together, with sisters, and they just formed this friendship. And it's like, and it wasn't, they could have went on this trip, and then that's nice. You're fine. You're cool and everything. And then come home, and then it just dissipates, right?
What's that saying? A one and done.
A one and done. Yeah.
That's a one and done.
But no, they actually formed a friendship.
And there was another girl too.
And there was another girl there too.
All that just showed up here at the parish.
And now that they're like the three musketeers.
They just and because of it, Ava is a different person.
She's a different person, and
I was like, wow, she has I wouldn't say she's shy anymore.
No. Well, and what I will say too is because I was talking to Sister here about it the other night, and I said, God is too good to us. We pray and we sacrifice, and just because your prayer doesn't get answered doesn't mean that like you should. Sometimes your prayers don't get answered, is what I'm going to say. And
sometimes it's
the answer that you don't want.
It gets answered, but it's not what you want.
It's not always the answer you want. But in this instance, my prayers, I feel like they were answered. And I said to Sister, God is too good to us. And he sent these people just when I needed them, And I mean, that's not to say that it's a forever thing. Like, who knows? Sometimes friendships fall apart. I'm not like, pinning all my stars on it.
No, but for the
time being, it's a blessing.
It's a blessing.
It's a huge blessing.
We had a new family show up to the school
today,
and so anyway, there happens to be a little boy in one of my grandson's grades, and right away they connected because he really likes soccer.
Yeah.
And my grandson loves sports, and the boys that love sports, there was a little split that happened, right? Because they moved on up to grade 5.
Yeah.
And he's only in grade 3 this year.
Right. So he didn't get to move up.
The boys that he would have, played all the sports with.
Moved up,
right?
Yeah.
And kind of left him behind a little bit. And that doesn't really mean anything because when they go out,
they all go out for recess together anyways.
They play together. And so here's this boy comes and he likes soccer. And I said, well, wow, what a blessing for little Logan. And my daughter's, oh yeah, because there wasn't anybody that shared his interests.
Yeah.
Like I don't have, I don't care what people are interested in, but it's nice to have somebody who shares your interest.
Well, it's that icebreaker too. It gives you that icebreaker thing, and they can go out and play soccer, and then the friendship buds, with the common interest.
That's what actually creates friendships.
Right. It's
common interests, right? So if you have, those who love Jesus and Mary, the lady that called me yesterday, God bless her, I love her to death. I'm not going to mention her name. I don't think she'd care for that.
Yeah.
But you know, she has her children are my age. You know, she goes through a lot of the struggles that I go through.
Her children are your age?
No. Are my children's age?
I was going to say. I think you got that wrong.
She is my age, right? So we can, you know, we can commiserate with each other.
And how rotten your children are. No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, we don't do that.
My mom likes to make little digs at us.
I do not. I say it sometimes, but I say it in jest.
I know. I'm just teasing. I'm digging you.
You're digging me. So anyway, you know, so we really connected. Like, we really connected.
Well, I will say though, in all seriousness, if you are a mother and you have a friend, it is helpful if that friend, like say, you know, I have a friend who's a mother and we both have teenagers.
Yeah.
Because you know how hard the teenage years are.
Right.
And it's nice to have that friend, like, you know, this friend that my daughter is friends with, you know, they're both teenagers. So her and I can go, oh, yeah, how are you dealing with that? Or, you know, like the teenage years are really rough.
They're really hard.
They're really hard. So if you have...
most people with any sense would tell you they absolutely would never go back to them.
No.
I would never go back to them. If somebody said, don't you wish you were in high school again? Never. Not on any... First of all, I never want to be that dumb again. You know, but other than that...
Well, and what's fun... Well, it's because it's funny. My sister was over at my house yesterday, and, you know, she doesn't have teenagers yet.
Not yet, but they're coming.
But she's got 4 girls that are going to be teenagers at some point.
Very soon, actually.
And, you know, she was there and Ava did something or said something, you know, a typical teenager thing. And she just looked at me and I looked at her and I was like, teenagers, just wait. You know, like it wasn't anything bad, but it's just that typical, like, I don't know, teenager thing. Like,
well, I mean... There's a lot of reasons for that, especially with girls.
I mean, they're trying to find
They're trying to find themselves. You know, and when I say find themselves, the world is like a giant mystery.
Yeah.
And they don't know, and there's so much uncertainty. And they don't, even the most assured girl, the girl with the most confidence in the whole world, or you think that girl, she doesn't have any problems. Like, she's pretty, you know, maybe she's it's funny. I actually watched a movie about that. I know it. Watched it. I can't remember what it was called. But
Mom, you can never remember what they're called.
That's because
I watched a movie. I can't remember what it's called.
I watch stuff, but I don't really put a lot into it. Like, I'm not very vested in anything. Right. This was just of interest, but the girl had amnesia.
Oh, how fitting.
Yeah, no. Well, what had happened to her was she was in a car accident, and then she got amnesia, and she didn't remember anybody. And she was a very pretty girl. Mm-hmm. And she, you know, was dating a very handsome guy. Mm-hmm. And when she came, and she was very popular in the school. She was, you know, captain of the soccer team, all this stuff, right? Mm-hmm. And when she had this car accident, when she awoke from it, she didn't remember anybody or anything, right? So they had to say, "This is your boyfriend," and she's like, "That's my boyfriend." Mm-hmm. Like, and she says to him at some point, she goes, "I just don't feel a connection to you."
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And then, you know, and then she's trying to decide, she's kind of evaluating her life and the people in it. Mm-hmm. And then she accidentally finds a poem book underneath her mattress of things that nobody did. And she says to her boyfriend, "Did you know I wrote poems?"
Yeah.
And he says, "No, I didn't know that." And she said, "Why wouldn't I tell you that?"
So she did it in secret.
She was doing so something was wrong.
Yeah.
Right? So she had this poem book and she was going through it. She was trying to find herself, find who she was. Well, what she found out was she was not a very happy girl.
Oh.
She was actually...
She was putting on an act.
She was putting on an act. You know, she had everything. She had the look. She had the boyfriend.
Yeah.
She had the sport. She was trying for... I mean, her parents were push. She was going for a sports scholarship. All this stuff, right? And then, you know, this poem book took her to all her insecurities and all... Like, she didn't really like her boyfriend. That part was right. Okay. You know, and they were on the verge of breaking up before the accident. And she wasn't confident or sure of herself. And life was a mystery. This is the way it is for all girls. Mm-hmm. I don't, you know, I'm not so much an expert on boys so much. But young people are not confident in themselves, even if they portray that they're confident in themselves.
Well, because they're trying to figure out who they are and what they're going to be.
Right. Everything is so uncertain. I mean, for girls, one of the biggest problems for girls is they feel no one is ever going to love them. Like, it's so important to be loved, right? Yeah. The only way that you get through all that is by cementing a deep love for God.
Right.
Well,
that's the only way you get through anything.
No, I know. It's the only way you get through anything. But those in the teenage years that have fostered that really, really strong devotion, the type of girl that becomes a nun at 18, right. Let's say, right. Where they've fostered this really strong devotion in God.
They're really sure of themselves.
Well, they're not so much sure, but they put their confidence in God.
Right.
So the others, everything else doesn't matter. But I mean, those are special types of girls that you don't see very often.
They're very rare.
They're very rare. So it is a time period of great. I mean, the Catholic Girls Guide says something like, "Who will unshroud the mystery of life?"
Yeah.
Right, and that's what they're looking for. Yeah. Experience life and all that stuff. So it's a very difficult time. So, I mean, if you have teenage daughters and sons too, I imagine it's somewhat the same.
Yeah.
Try to be gentle with them.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to figure it out, and these are very.
Well, and you can't figure it out for them.
And you can't figure it out for them.
Yeah.
You kind of have to go through their idiocy.
Yeah.
I remember with your brother one time, he'd done like 3 stupid things in a row. And one of them was he had a cell phone and he racked up this large bill that he didn't know he was doing. And I said to him, let's just put this down to a life experience.
Yeah.
And he said to me, I can't take any more life experiences.
Yeah, because you're...
Like, yeah, well, you might going to have to.
Racking them up pretty fast.
You're racking them up pretty fast, learning about how the world ticks and turns.
Yeah.
But anyway, so if you have teenagers, if they don't have friendships, pray for them. Pray and sacrifice. A lot of sacrifice too.
Yeah.
Do a lot of sacrifice. Like, I mean, I know we always say pray, but in my personal experience, the sacrifice, I mean, you have to pray. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying don't pray, but you need to add the sacrifice to it. Mm-hmm. You need to, what will you deny yourself for this?
Yeah.
You need to add that element of sacrifice in there. I always find, and correction of yourself too.
Right.
When you correct yourself, you'll find that things turn more in your favor. Mm-hmm. Like if you have something you want changed or you want to help your children, look to yourself at what you can correct. What can I correct in myself?
Right.
And you will find that more moves in your direction when you do that.
Right. Okay, so I guess we'll move into our book here. So for those that are new, we are reading from a handbook of good manners from the Mother House of the Sisters of Charity. And we're going to be moving into the subsection about manners at table. So yes. Good table manners here.
Etiquette. Who's that that wrote the etiquette books? The famous ones.
Oh, I don't know.
Well, just the word Emily.
I have no clue.
No. Well, if you know, put it in the comments.
Why are we?
Well, because at table is always an etiquette thing.
Oh, okay.
Right, like which fork to use, which glass to use, which napkin to use, all that stuff. I don't know if that's what the kind of etiquette they're going to tell us about.
But
you know, how to sit and all that stuff was very, very important.
Okay, quote, the exquisite courtesy of Our Lady at Cana, the supreme self-sacrifice of our Lord at the Last Supper, and his loving kindness at Emmaus provide in an infinite degree all that is needed to create a perfect spirit for every convent refectory.
What was that? Emmaus.
E-M-M-A-U-S. Emmaus.
I don't know what that is. What does it say?
His loving, I'm assuming it's a place.
Yeah.
Oh, His loving kindness at Emmaus. Emmaus.
Okay, here we go. Put in the comments if you know what You know what we're talking about here.
So I think they're setting up the stage of how we should act at the table here.
Yes, so he must have went to dinner.
Yeah. Quote, at the Last Supper, particularly, did the Master give a surpassing example of how to sanctify the taking of meals. On that night, he showed by manner, action, and speech the attitude that is the foundation and inspiration of perfect table manners. End quote. So we're taking her right back to the Last Supper for our table manners.
Well, as we should. Always Jesus is our example in everything.
Well, and it says here he showed by manner, action, and speech.
Right.
So, quote, everything breathed forth unselfishness and consideration. He manifested the spirit of charity in the most appealing way, making the supper the occasion for voicing the most beautiful expression of love that mankind has ever heard. Love one another as I have loved you. Epitomize the code of heavenly etiquette for those who sit together at any table the world over. End quote. So,
love one another as I have loved you.
Our Lord said that at the Last Supper.
Yeah.
So they're, going to go on to our Lord's charity here.
Well, I mean personally, that's one of my missions. Is I don't feel there's enough charity in the world.
Yeah.
I don't really feel we love one another as Christ loves us. I mean, think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
You're gonna think about the person you dislike the most.
I think they're gonna go into here about Judas.
Ooh,
remember who was at the Last Supper?
Who was at the Last Supper? Yeah, let's hear that.
Okay. Quote, in charity, he kept from his guests the sadness that filled his heart. For though he knew beforehand the betrayal by Judas, the denial by Peter, the desertion of his disciples, and the cruelty of its executioners, nevertheless, he was all kindness, all graciousness to those about him. End quote. I mean, that's a very good point.
Think about that.
He knew exactly what was coming.
Yeah,
he knew the man sitting right directly beside him was about to betray him in the most cruel way possible. Like to, just break his heart. And he sat there and he was nothing but kind and charitable to him. And the other thing is, the point that I take from this is our Lord knew. We don't even know.
Yeah, we don't know.
And we're not charitable. We don't know what's coming down the pipeline for us.
No, we don't.
And we don't have the charity.
Yeah.
And our Lord knew, and he was still charitable.
Yeah.
Okay, quote, certainly we can find no greater help toward politeness in the refectory than a meditation on Christ in the upper room, end quote. So basically meditating on how Christ treated. And I mean, the thing too is, I meant to say too, it's not just Judas. It was Peter was going to deny him 3 times, and all the disciples fled.
Yes. He knew everybody here, all his beloved people, were
about to leave him after he presented them with this meal, the Last Supper.
The one thing that I that strikes me as interesting, because I mentioned that etiquette book, like we talk about etiquette, right? And then my very first thought to etiquette went to this famous, you should Google it so we know what we're talking about. This, etiquette by whoever, with the teaching people how
who this woman is?
Yeah, well, it's famous and I can't think of it. Everybody know. Well, I shouldn't say everybody knows, but if you're old, you should.
Emily Post.
Right, Emily Post and her etiquette, right?
Yeah.
That's where my mind went to when we're talking about etiquette. How using the right fork, using the right knife,
And they're going to our Lord.
And they went, as Catholics should go, right to the source. They were right to the Last Supper. If we're going to talk about etiquette, we have to go right to the Last Supper.
Yeah. Okay. Quote, it is indeed especially at the table that cultured training, or the reverse, is proved. Just because we have withdrawn from the world, we are not thereby at liberty to disregard the fruits of that training. Rather, are we the more stringently bound to observe the laws of etiquette, since we are the more conscientiously obliged to practice charity, end quote.
Right.
So since they're nuns, they're more obliged to practice charity.
than the
average person. So of course they can't forget their.
And same with us.
Yeah. No, so are we. Like
yeah, no. I mean, just because we're not nuns.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I maintain. Like you're the one that calls yourself Catholic.
Yeah.
That means you have to behave and act better than everybody else in the room.
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson has that test, Understanding Thyself, and the results go. If you maybe you get a 64 result in something, right? How that is explained, it's out of 100 people, you will be the 64th person to be most charitable in the room. I'm just using that for an example, right? Well, we should say to ourselves, out of 100 people in this room, I need to be the 100th most charitable person.
Yeah.
Or what?
I need to be there. Yes. There can't be one more person in this room that is more charitable than me.
So that's how he gauges those. That thing, right? So if you were at 0, that means 99
people in the room are more charitable than you.
More charitable than you. I mean, I don't know. Is charity a thing?
No, not in that test. No.
No, but politeness,
agreeableness, compassion. Those all fall under the umbrella of charity.
Right. So I mean, we should say, as a Catholic, I need to behave. There should be no one in this room who behaves better than I do.
Right.
Basically.
Okay, quote, among the reminders listed below, there is, of course, no need of mentioning gross faults such as are implied in the following prescriptions found in elementary books on good manners. Quote, do not take too much into the mouth at one time. Do not speak with your mouth full. Keep your mouth closed while chewing. Avoid eating or drinking in such a way that the action is audible. Refrain from greediness in serving yourself. End quote. So basically, I think what they're trying to say is really there's no need of even mentioning these things because they should just be so common knowledge that you shouldn't do that.
We don't need to talk.
We don't really need to talk about this because you shouldn't be doing that.
We don't need to talk about you talking with your mouth full.
Yeah. Quote, these precautions are well known, but there are other directives about which we are likely to grow careless. We may all profit, therefore, by taking a fresh glance at the customs and usages that the present-day code of politeness recommends as befitting the refined woman, whether lay or religious. End quote. So the other directives we are likely to grow careless in. Are they going to tell us?
Yeah, well, please.
Oh, here we go. Okay. Quote, the recommendations here given have been checked with those proceeding from the most reliable and approved sources, end quote. See, I thought that was the end of table manners because then it says gentle reminders, but these general reminders do pertain
to table manners.
I thought it was going into a different one, so that's why I was confused. So anyways, so these are a new sub-subject under table manners called gentle reminders. So quote, after entering the refectory, remain at your place in silence and quiet. Stand facing the crucifix, hands folded, as is the community custom. Do not pour the water, attend to anything on the table, nor draw out your chair until the presiding sister has said grace. End quote. Right. Now you would think, okay, well, we're not in a convent. But you know what? It is really, especially if you're at someone's house.
Yeah.
And you're visiting, not to touch anything.
Yeah.
Until the owner of the household or the person in charge has said grace.
Yes.
That's a good general rule of thumb. To not pour yourself a glass of water, it's not even just about good etiquette, it's about practicing self-control too.
Right.
And denial of self. That I'm going to allow the person that owns this house to take command here.
Yeah.
And I'll wait until offered or I'll.
Exactly.
And then on the flip side, if you're hosting, I know we've talked about that a lot, but two, be courteous to your guests that someone may be doing that.
Right.
And to make sure they have water and to make sure they have napkins and to make sure, that's in good charity too.
Right.
Quote, move your chair quietly. Do not seat yourself until the presiding sister is seated. End quote. So
what they all come to the table and stand behind their chair
until Mother Superior or whoever the presiding sister is in the circumstance.
Comes in and sits down, and then they all sit down.
Yeah. Quote, try to avoid unnecessary noise in drawing your chair into the table. Be careful of your posture, sit erect, and keep the hands on the lap when not busy with the food. End quote. So basically, keep your elbows off the table.
Right. Don't, come in like a gangbuster and, making ruckus and smashing your chair around. And
yeah. And
you've been somewhere when someone's doing that. Like maybe it's an auditorium or something, and all of a sudden there's a commotion down at the other end, and it's just somebody sitting.
Yeah.
And everybody looks and goes, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Okay. We did that. Okay, quote. When taking meals with your own sisters, wear the napkin according to your community custom. When eating outside your community comments, however, as for example in a railroad dining car or at a convention assembly, place the napkin on the lap. End quote. So, Mom, the next time you're in a railroad dining car, that's obviously pivotal to the times.
Right.
I mean, I'm sure if they were missionary, they would be traveling a lot, right? I always try to remember to put my napkin on my lap because nobody wants to see your dirty napkin on the table.
Yeah, they might.
That's why they do that.
They might wear a napkin around their neck because
to protect their
habit. I mean, I could see that they would be very cautious, but don't.
But I mean, for us,
don't
it's
do that when you're out in public.
No, and to me, I just always put my napkin on my lap because I don't want anybody seeing all my gross food on it, it is gross.
Yeah.
Like it is gross looking, and then if you just throw it on the table, Okay. Quote, throughout the meal, keep the elbows near the sides and avoid resting arms on the table. End quote, which, everybody knows, keep your elbows off the table.
Yeah, but nobody does it.
I know.
I mean, I don't do it either. I mean,
no, I know. But it's funny. That's why I say that. Like, we all know, we were all told, get your elbows off the table. Get your elbows off the table. But how many people actually made it habitual?
Nobody.
To keep your elbows off the table.
I
do see it, though.
Maybe there's families out there, but to me, in general, the practice of etiquette of any kind is gone. Mm-hmm. Everybody eats like mom and pa kettle.
Yeah.
Those
rush to the table, barely wait for grace.
And just, like hogs at the trough, my father would say. Mm-hmm. But, I mean, the other thing, too, is I think a lot of families don't actually eat
together.
No, I mean, I've seen more, like on Facebook, not anybody particular, but like old people that I know, they'd be having like their Christmas dinner and they're like all over. Some are eating on the island and some are they're on their lap and they, and I
mean, you know what though? The modern houses removed dining rooms though.
Yeah, they did.
How many people in the modern, I lived in a house that didn't even have a spot for a kitchen table.
Yeah, I know.
There was the first house my husband and I bought, there was no spot for a kitchen table. We had to eat at an island.
You had to eat at an island.
Yeah. I mean, it was a small house, but
it was very small, but I mean, I think that's like, it's like the big comfy couch. It's the society that we've come to. Yeah. Where these things aren't important anymore.
Well, actually, to be fair, I would say there was a spot for a dining room table, but the people that owned it before me took that out for a larger kitchen.
Right.
That was the problem. Because it was an older home, and I remember like, why is there no spot for a kitchen table here? But now I'm remembering there was a wall, and they took it down to have a bigger kitchen.
Yeah.
So that's what people are doing, right? They're getting rid of their dining rooms for larger kitchens.
Yes.
Or more other living space. Because, but why do we get rid of things? Because they weren't being used.
They weren't being used.
If you were using it, you never would get rid of it.
If it was important that your family sat around a table, said grace, and had their meal properly,
you wouldn't get rid of that space.
So what happens? So in the average household now is kids are so busy. Like, I mean, I don't really know what it's like now. I feel like since the big C word.
Yeah, you're just going off of
everything is a little different. So I'm not really sure, but I mean, back in the day, well, you had your brownies, you had your soccer, you had your hockey, you had your whatever kids were doing, your basketball, and so parents were spend so much time running to meetings and sports and whatever children are doing that they just stopped eating like
together, eating normal family dinners.
And I mean, I remember our family is ridiculously consistent at family dinner.
Mm-hmm.
For the majority of my life, dinner was at 10 to 6.
Yeah.
That was dinner time. And you knew it was dinner time. And if you came to the house at dinner time, you'd be like, they are having dinner. And even the other day, I had one of the grandchildren here, and this is quite a while ago, and I think the dad made a comment, well, is he even going to get anything to eat or something? And my daughter said, she will have a dinner. Yeah. It will be a full-fledged dinner, because his parents don't actually eat. Like, there's two of them, and they might make it, like they don't actually have dinner.
Right.
And I mean, they just eat when they feel like it, or have a salad when they feel like it. They don't actually sit down and prepare a dinner. So I said, no, I mean, we've had a dinner our whole entire life, always.
Right.
And I can't foresee that ever changing unless I live by myself.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, the rest of the world doesn't operate like that, but we are.
Well, maybe some people do.
Maybe some people do.
I wouldn't say everybody. I'm sure there are other people out there that have dinner.
Do you?
Yeah. If my husband's home, if we're home, we have dinner.
Yeah.
But
it's not like us.
No, it's not. Well, what I would say though, Mom, is that you have old people living here.
Yeah. Well.
Right. That have to eat every day at, like you're in a different. I don't want to say era, but you're in.
We are definitely in a different era.
Like I'm sure once. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, if my husband's home and we don't we don't do too much. Like we have choir.
Yeah.
On Wednesdays, and then I just eat here.
Yeah.
But if kids are busy, I guess it's because kids are busy is what you're getting at.
No, it's just a different way of living.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, in the old days, dinner was very important, so everything revolved around the dinner hour. Right? Like, you didn't do things that upset the dinner hour.
Right.
And now we do things that upset the dinner hour because it's irrelevant.
Right.
And we should change that. So if you're young, you got a young family, you should, because it is actually in our house, it was a very important hour. And not only that, it was a time to be with your family. Right. And it was a time to listen to your father.
Right. Yeah.
Because, I mean, in my house, my dad talked.
Yeah.
And dinner time was, it was interesting. Mm-hmm. That's when he told us everything, that we needed to know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, quote, be especially gracious, courteous, and thoughtful in passing platters and other service dishes to the sister next to you. Turn your head toward her as you pass the dish. Do not lay the dish on the table, but wait patiently until the sister takes it from you. If the sister is serving herself from a dish previously passed, wait until she is ready to take the one you are offering, and try to avoid passing dishes with the left hand, end quote. So that was one thing. Yeah, they're saying here, if somebody asks you to pass the dish, do not put it on the table. You wait for the person to take the dish. You don't actually, the person taking the dish is the one that lays it on the table. Like, will serve themselves and then lay it on the table. And actually, you know why I think that is? Why? Off the top of my head? That helps eliminate food being slopped on the table. Because if you're holding a dish over your plate and you scoop it and you put this stuff, you scoop over your plate and you put it on your plate, then you set the dish down.
Right.
And it also prevents you from having to get up out of your chair. Because if the dish is in the middle of the table, you might have to kind of get up a little bit to grab the scoop and then bring it over to your plate.
And as you're scooping the gravy,
it's slopping down the table.
Across the table, yeah.
That is very true, that you should be holding the dish while you're... But, again, that would mean that you then have to not throw a pot on the table.
Right.
Like and I remember once, because everybody comes from different homes and different ways of doing things, but I do remember once when we moved to our house, not the house we live at now, but we got this nicer house and we had a dining room. We could entertain. So we had my in-laws over, and I prepared this dinner, and I wanted it to be really special. So I got out serving platters and bowl,
plattered everything.
and everything was in a nice dish served on the table. And my in-laws never ate like that. Like when you go to their house, everything's on the island, on the counter, and you serve yourself. And then you sit down. They never put food on the table. It's just a different way of doing things. But I remember my father-in-law sitting down at the table and turning to me and going, "This is so nice."
Yeah.
And it reminded him of the way he used to eat dinner with his family.
Well, I mean, because he's old.
Because he's old, right?
You know, and when dinner time was a special time.
This takes me back.
Yeah.
And he goes, "You have everything so nice, like a pitcher of water for you want ice water, you know." And I did that on purpose. I was trying to.
Yeah, you were trying to make it nice.
I was trying to make it nice.
This is not how you eat normal.
Well, no, that's not how I eat every day. But I also didn't have a dining room before.
Right.
I had never had a dining room, so it's like I wanted to sit down and have a nice meal, and it does make a difference.
No, I mean,
people.
That's the way I like to serve a dinner. I like to serve it on platters. And I like, you know, put the cups and the drink on the table. And, you know, I mean, I remember as a young girl going and, you know, on their table, they had little, you know, like little bits of cheese and little...
little crudités.
And I was like... And I mean, my house, we weren't fussy. Like, growing up, I didn't grow up fussy. Like, with tablecloths and stuff like that. But, or crudités, you know. It was just, you know, here's your dinner and it would be on the table. Yeah. And we just always had dinner hour. Yeah. But I like it to be a little more fussy myself personally, because I'm trying to bring
that back.
And we just were visiting with a friend, and they always have a tablecloth. She says, "Oh,
it's a cultural thing."
She said it was cultural, but I thought it was really nice. Like, she changed her tablecloth twice. Like, she has stacks of them.
I know, because when I had to actually leave for a bit, I had to go pick up there was a church function going on. So we were there waiting for this church function. I had to leave and go and shuttle some people.
Yeah.
And when I left, there was one tablecloth on the table. But when I came back, and I was gone for about an hour, you would say, there was a different tablecloth on the table when I came back.
Well, somebody spilled something.
And I was like, "Oh, we've had a tablecloth change."
Oh, the little girl spilled her drink.
But even still, you know, that's... rather than just leaving the tablecloth.
Well, their table itself was just wood.
Yeah.
It was just like wood planks. I mean, not wood planks. I mean, it was nicely done, varnished and all that stuff. But it was very wood. And then she would just throw a tablecloth over that wood. She said, "Oh, we never eat without a tablecloth."
Yeah.
And I was like, I kind of like this. I mean, we always had a tablecloth on our table with them plastic over. We didn't ever change the tablecloth.
Yeah.
Because we had plastic. But I did like it.
That was to protect the tablecloth.
Well, it was because also, too, we weren't eating on a proper table.
No.
We were eating on these giant folding tables, because the dining room sat 22 people, so we created our own tables. But anyway, we tried to make it nice.
Yeah. Okay, quote. When requested to pass a dish that is resting on the table, lift it and hand it gently to the sister next to you. Pass the pitcher in such a way that the handle is turned toward the sister receiving it.
Yes.
End quote. That's one of the things the very first thing you actually learn when you go to school to be a dental assistant.
To hand the utensils.
To hand the tools so that the dentist can use them right away.
Right.
You don't hand the tool like you're using it. Yeah. You hand the tool so that they can use it.
Right.
And I remember that. That was the very first thing, because, you know, you just pass somebody a tool. And it's funny that these things actually stuck with me, because now when I'm like, you know, say we're working around the house.
Yeah.
And my husband asks for a hammer. I always grab the head of the hammer and I pass him the handle, just like I would a dental assisting tool.
Right.
And he can just grab it and toot, you know? Like, you learn these things, but it is consideration for the person that you're passing something to. It's just consideration
for others. Like, it's incredible how, you know, if we lived our life according to etiquette, we would always be thinking of the other person.
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly.
You know, and this has all been, like, from how we're giving them a plate, how we're giving them a jug, how we're, what we're doing. Like you're always doing etiquette kind of allowed you to always be thinking of other people, not yourself. And, of course it was wiped out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Self was replaced.
Right. Okay, quote, never use your own fork, spoon, or knife to take food from dishes containing what is intended for others besides yourself. Yes, so that is one that I fail miserably in a lot of times. Like, when you're going for seconds and then you just stick your fork in the, I do that all the time. I will admit,
when you're you would never do it if you were at someone's house.
No, but I mean, like when I'm comfortable. I do it here. I do it here all the time.
I know, but we're a little bit lax.
But, I know, but I should still have good manners.
And this is like home.
Yeah. Okay, but you do these things at home, they become habitual. Okay, quote, refrain from serving yourself to the most desirable things on the dish or to the portion so large that the other sisters will be stinted.
Yes, I've seen that. I've seen that in action.
And this is something that I will say, I will give myself props for this. I've tried really hard to, when I'm cooking, because I've cooked it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I force myself now to take the least desirable looking piece of meat.
Yeah.
And save the best one for my husband first, and then I serve the kids.
And
that's just a sacrifice thing for me. Like I do it for a sacrifice, not for good etiquette, but it falls under that.
Yeah, I think I mentioned it before the very first time I saw that. It was a nun.
Yeah.
At our house, and my dad made these, hors d'oeuvres or something, but they were baked in the oven, and some of them came out like charcoal. I don't even know why he put them on the plate.
Right.
And then sister goes to take them.
And she takes the burnt one.
And he's like, no, sister, not those. He's like, take these. And she was like, oh, no, these are perfect. And I'm like, what? Perfect for what? The fireplace? And I knew right away. I'm like, no, you're making a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Like you're
because
taking
no one's gonna eat those.
You're taking the leash, so no one else has to.
Yeah.
And it was a great example for me.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, obviously I didn't say anything, but I knew. I was like, wow, that's what they do. That's what nuns do. They take the least. Yeah. We should be taking the least.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, quote, when helping yourself to bread, cake, fruit, or anything else for which you use the hand, be sure to take the first piece you touch and avoid handling anything else on the plate.
Right.
End quote. Very common knowledge there.
Common, yeah.
Don't be touching and handling everything.
Well, in the world of germs, what I will say is watch your children.
Yeah.
Because, we have potlucks and we have stuff like that. And, a little occasionally, the odd time, the children are not watched so clearly. Right. And they're up there manhandling
all
everything.
The food.
And I know, myself, it doesn't overly bother me. Like, I'm less like...
But again, it's that consideration.
But there are people that it really bothers. When people start manhandling the food.
I know, but that's part of the etiquette, the consideration of others.
Yeah, you have
So if you know that's going to bother other people... You don't go, oh, well, that don't bother me. So.
And I'm going to say, like, we have to pay more attention to the children.
Right.
If I have a criticism, it's that the children are not paid enough close attention to, that they're eating properly and they're acting properly and they're practicing their general etiquette when at functions like, potlucks or funerals or weddings or you name it.
These are all things that we should be teaching them,
and we should be teaching them, like it's not getting passed down. So if you have little children, make a little note to yourself. The next event we go to, don't allow your children to just
manhandle the food.
Just to go up. The other thing too that really irks me, now that we're talking about being irked. Well, I'm a food person. So, and not just a food person as in eating it, in making it, presenting it, putting it out there kind of thing. So, when you do all this work, you do have things that kind of bother you, right? Mm-hmm. And the children are a big issue. They very greedily come up and then they'll just take everything and then they won't eat it. and the parents are not managing.
And then you see all these plates sitting.
They're not managing what they put on their plate.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can have a bowl. This. I'm going to put this out there because this was in my own family. Where we put a bowl of cucumbers on the table and one kid took all the cucumbers.
It was meant for people just to take a couple and...
Yeah, and it's like you have to watch your children. You don't get to do that. You don't get to take, oh, I love meatballs. I'm going to take them all.
Yeah.
We're at a potluck and I'll just fill my plate with meatballs and then I'll eat one because I don't really like them.
And then they're left sitting there.
And then, you've wasted all this food.
Right.
Yeah, mothers, watch your children at food events. Yeah. Don't let them just do whatever they feel like.
Right.
Somebody, put money into that. Somebody put their work into that. And,
Right.
And then it gets destroyed by your child. Not good.
Yeah. Okay, quote, try to supernaturalize the taking of meals so that you do not show too much avidity or satisfaction in the sensual pleasure of eating. End quote.
Oh, this is so good.
Yeah. I mean, you can compliment the chef. You can say it's delicious.
Well,
but you don't need to go overboard.
Yes.
Like, but I think it's not so much of a complimenting thing. It's like those sounds that people make when they take every single bite when something is really good.
Yeah.
And you're sitting at a table and somebody's,
having a...
like they're just so over the top.
Yeah.
With every bite.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to imitate it because it irritates me so. So, it's like, and then for me, like, it's like, and then the person sitting there made the food. Oh, thanks. Oh, good. Yeah. It's like you don't, we're supposed to be moderate.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're supposed to be moderate. We're not supposed to be over the top. We're not supposed to be, so it's like, great. Good meal. It's delicious.
Yeah.
Everything was wonderful. You put so much thought into it. Thank you.
Yeah.
We don't need to make a sound with every single bite. I don't know. It makes things awkward for people, Anyways, that's what I'll leave at that. Quote, wait until the sister presiding at your table has begun to eat before commencing your own meal. Approved etiquette no longer requires that we wait until all the tables are served. We may begin after a few persons have been served. So I guess that's, end quote. That's in like a big, if you're at a big thing.
Or a restaurant.
Or a restaurant, yeah.
Have you ever been at a restaurant and they've forgotten your food?
Oh, yeah.
And you're sitting there and everybody around you is eating away.
Yes.
And you're just sitting there.
I hate that. It's so awkward.
It is very, very awkward. And not just that, you should try some restraint and feel awkward with that person.
Yeah, I know. Unless, of course, but a lot of times, like, I always say, oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Like, I always say, go ahead. Don't wait for me. It's fine. I can wait.
Yeah.
And then if somebody says that to you, don't wait because they've given you, like, do what they say.
They don't really want you to sit there just because they...
And you're just like, oh, your food's getting cold,
Yeah.
Okay, quote, unless it is the custom at your table for the sister at the head to serve the soup and pour the tea or coffee, let the sisters take turns in performing this service. No one should either monopolize or shirk these tasks. End quote. So that's more like of a community. You're living in a community. For us, we're not living in communities, But I would say, you could maybe teach your kids, like at family dinner. Mom doesn't always have to be the one pouring the juice.
Right.
You could teach your kids to step up and help too.
Yeah, okay, pour the juice for everybody.
Yeah. Or, sometimes, like when we're eating, I don't set the table per se, like if it's just a quick, easy family dinner. But I always take turns to make the kids, okay, Doug, I'll say you get the forks for everybody. You get the knives. Yeah. Ava, you get the napkins. Like I make them share the responsibility. Okay, quote, do not require another sister to hold a cup or glass while you fill it. Place it near you on the table and then pour. End quote. I'm laughing because how awkward is it to pour when somebody's holding the glass?
Oh, it's like you really, it's like, oh, what if I drop it? What if I spill it? Like you do get overwhelmed with.
So just put your glass down and let the person
Can you
pour.
back away from the glass so I can pour it?
I just laugh at that. Okay. Quote, do not, oh, sorry, I read that one. When eating, lift the food to your mouth. Do not lower your head to the plate. There will be no danger of dropping or dripping if only small amounts are carried by the fork or spoon.
Sorry about the coughing,
Can you hear me talking over that?
My 100-year cough.
Anyways, yeah, that's a good thing. You know, there's no, I love how they say that so gently too. There will be no danger of dropping or dripping if only small amounts are carried by the fork or spoon. So in other words, don't use your fork like it's a shovel.
Right.
And you're shoveling out a dirt hole. You know, like just,
my
if you just
parents
put
used
little
to say
bits
that.
on your fork.
Stop shoveling it in.
Yeah.
Like a digging machine into your mouth.
And I never thought of that before. Small amounts on your fork.
Let's try to remember that gluttony is actually a
vice.
A capital sin. Not a vice, it's a capital sin.
Yeah.
But it's bigger than a vice.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when we go out, we want to make sure that we show every you know,
virtue.
we don't, and I think it gets overlooked a lot.
Yeah.
Gluttony. Like
it does, yeah.
Like it's not really a real sin. In our life of, I don't know, where food's aplenty and you know.
Well, there is actually amongst Catholics, I have heard, just in passing and general conversation, their buffets can be a bone of contention.
Yes.
For a lot of Catholics because they find them to be very wasteful.
And that you're gorging.
Yeah. I go to buffets. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I have heard it said to me that some people think it's a sin. I would not go that far. But what I do I will say, ever since hearing that conversation, I am very mindful while I'm at a buffet.
Yeah.
I don't, I used to just go and just get what I want, and then and then you're like, oh, I'll try a little bit of this. No, don't like that. Oh, this, no, don't like that. And then you leave it on your plate. But I don't do that anymore. And I'm very mindful that if I take something, I eat it.
Kids should not
because
go
it's
to a
wasteful.
buffet.
It is wasteful. It's very wasteful.
I mean, in my old age, I have learned to be moderate at a buffet.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
Well, mainly because when you leave, you feel sick.
Yeah.
Like you've just gone to eat and you feel sick.
You feel like, yeah.
And I don't like that. So, you know, I'm just like, oh, I'll just take a little bit of this and a little bit of this. And I'm like, no, you're done. So
you're
stop.
done. Cut her off.
Cut her off, right? You know.
Okay, quote, avoid holding the knife near the blade. Clasp it by the handle. The same custom applies to forks and spoons. Cut and handle your food delicately, trying to use the fingers rather than the whole hand. End quote.
Well, you're not supposed to picture yourself gripping a knife and a fork.
Yeah.
And doing this.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You're like you're supposed to just hold it.
Just
with
gently
a couple
with your fingers.
You know,
Yeah, gotcha.
Not with your whole fist pump. You know,
right.
You're like shoveling it in, right?
Like, yeah, I did have to teach my daughter how to hold her. She used to hold her fork.
Just like that?
Like she was a big old, I'm not but like a farmer, you know, like.
Well, that's a stereotype.
I know it is a stereotype, but I don't know how else I don't know how else to say it.
Actually, that's a saying they used to. How awful.
Okay, and you know what? I know it's a stereotype. I'm not saying it to be rude. I'm saying it because I saw it in a movie once.
Right, yeah.
Where the farmer comes in and he sits down at the table and he just, shovels the food in.
What the idea was that people on the farm, this is a stereotype, I'm telling you. I mean, I never actually thought of it till this moment, you know. They're uncouth.
Yeah.
They've never been, there was just be saying they've never been off the farm.
Yes.
Or, you know, there's another one, I was born in the barn, but born in, what were you, born in a barn?
Yeah.
Yeah, or I was born in the dark, or the barn, yeah. I don't know, but there's tons of them.
What were you, born in a barn? When someone comes in and doesn't shut the door. That's what it was. They say, shut the door. What were you, born in a barn?
Right, but, I mean, generally speaking, in the old days, farmers did not have education.
Right.
Right, so they didn't go to school.
I mean, I think, too, I'm just going to say, and people may get mad at me for saying this, but I'm going to say it anyways. we have to learn to not be so offended.
Right.
By everything.
Yeah.
Like, I didn't say that with any malice or any, like, it wasn't, it was a saying I heard growing up. And I think we need to understand that when people say these things, they're not being malicious.
Right.
I mean, maybe I won't say it anymore. Okay. But like, it's not coming from a malicious place. And I mean, we all are striving for charity. And I think we should just sometimes, when somebody says something and maybe saying's a little passe, or it's, maybe a farmer might be like, hey, I don't eat my food like that. What do you,
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, sorry. Like, don't be so offended.
The thing is, we do actually know lots of farmers.
And they don't eat like that.
And I have chickens.
And she has chickens.
I'm a farmer.
So. I have grapes. I'm a grape farmer.
I have grapes.
I'm just saying, I do think we. But
I was thinking, we do live in this very sensitive society
where people get offended by everything.
Yes, but that is kind of offensive.
No, I get it. I get it.
As Catholics,
we don't want to be offensive, but at the same time, we also have to learn to turn the other cheek.
I once said to somebody,
that's what I'm saying. This goes both ways.
Well, they don't buy the milk when they get the cow for free. That's a very old saying.
That is a very old saying. And she was so old, she thought that you were calling her a cow.
Yeah, I was calling her a cow, and it really went bad for me.
It did.
Somebody said to me once, well, you shouldn't have said that. You should have said... You should have said they don't drive.
They don't buy the Ferrari.
Or they don't buy the Lamborghini when they drive it for free. I'm like,
that's
work. Not the saying, okay? I can't help it. I didn't make the saying.
Yeah.
I didn't make the saying. It's just one of those things.
And and that, but my whole point of that is that we have to understand that these old sayings, there was not a malicious bone in your body when you said that.
No,
it wasn't said maliciously.
It was
was said in old sage advice.
It was the way it was.
It was the way it was, and it was not.
In the old days, like my grandfather, I don't know that he graduated even grade 8.
Yeah.
I don't think he did.
Yeah.
And then, in our society, of course, my mother's grade 12 was definitely grade 8. Everybody had to graduate grade 8. My grandfather's generation, you didn't have to actually graduate grade 8. Mm-hmm. And to be truthful, if you're only on the farm, right, why do you need all this schooling? You don't. You're
grown. You're raised and bred to carry on your family farm.
Right. So you didn't really need all this schooling.
You need to know what happens on the farm.
In my mother's generation, you definitely had to graduate grade 8. That was a definite thing. Yeah. My grandfather's, it wasn't.
Yeah.
And then my generation was a must that you had to graduate high school.
Yeah.
And now your generation, you had to graduate college.
Yeah.
Right. So my parents believed, my father believed all the time that the grade 8 level of education that my grandfather had was equal to the grade 12.
Well,
he believed that. He said
it probably was.
As we know in the education system, everything became less about learning and more about social issues of the day.
Well, and that's why we have all this political correctness too.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you should. I'm not saying you should. Some of these old sayings are quite offensive. I get it. But what I'm saying is that I just don't believe they come from a malicious place, is all I'm saying.
No, they don't.
And I think people take things way too personally.
They come from the way of the world.
The way of the world.
The way of the world was.
And you know what? And the other thing is, too, it's you got to teach your kids to have a backbone.
Yeah.
You have to. You have to teach your kids to have a backbone and, what was that saying? Sticks and stones may break my bones,
but names
will never hurt me.
Yeah, that's what they told us when we were little.
Well, that's what you told me.
Did I?
Well, I heard it growing up. I heard it all the time. We used to say it on the schoolyard when somebody would call us something. Sticks and stones may break my bones, but names will never hurt me. And then you'd walk away and then you'd be like, that one could hurt a little.
That really hurt.
But it just, I do believe you have to teach your children to have a backbone and to not think that everything is a direct target.
Yes.
Against them.
Yes.
Like, you're offending me. You know? I just think that part of it has gone too far.
Right.
I'm not saying we get to go around and say whatever we want.
Right.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying there are two sides to every coin.
Yeah.
And sometimes people in your life are going to say things that are hurtful.
Yeah. I
mean, we're here to we're not here for paradise, you know? So, anywho, now that
See what one little misstep. Wasn't much of a misstep.
It wasn't much. Okay, and to be fair to me, this was when I was not going to church, okay? And I just told her, like, she was shoveling her food in, and I said, stop shoveling your food in like you're a farmer, or whatever I said to her.
It was very common. That's what people said.
That's what I was told. It was
what was said at my table.
Yes.
Growing up.
Will I say it now? No, I will never say it again after this episode. And okay, I have friends who are farmers, and they're very nice people, and they're very polite, okay?
Sorry.
I'm sorry. We're getting silly.
Sorry, you're offended.
Actually, but I could tell you, I could say this to my friend who is a farmer.
Yeah.
And she wouldn't care.
Yeah.
She wouldn't care. But anyways, I'm just saying. Okay. Actually, we're over the hour, so maybe we better. Should we end it there before we go into anything else?
That was just something I wanted to say
before we wrap up.
Because we're talking about food and we're talking about table setting.
Okay, go for it.
If you're a woman and you're listening to this podcast, and the next time you have to go to a function, I want you to do your very, very best to make a really nice dish. And make a really nice presentation of it.
Of your dish.
If it needs to be cut, to cut it. To put doilies, and to take great pleasure in making something to feed other people. I feel like
that is our purpose, our joy,
I feel like our
Costco's and our
are taking away from women. Taking the delight in the kitchen that they should be taking.
Right.
I got to get something. Grab
Run to
this.
Costco.
Go grab that. And
throw the plastic down on the table.
Throw the plastic down on the table and walk away.
Right, yeah.
Get the vegetable tray from Foodland.
Yeah.
Or like all these things. I want you to say to yourself, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Say, I'm not going to do that. If I can bring a vegetable tray, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to buy a lettuce and a celery and some carrots and some mushrooms and cucumber. I'm going to cut it up, and then I'm going to make my own dip, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make it really nice, and then I'm going to present it really nice. I mean, if we fight the culture, right, instead of giving into it, if we do our little ways, I mean, this is kind of how we bring grace back into the world.
Well, you know what's funny is I actually saw a video this morning of DIY, because I follow these DIY channels, and this was a DIY food channel, and this woman had taken Pillsbury crescent rolls, cut them into strips, made this cornucopia out of Pillsbury crescent rolls, and then she had all the vegetables coming out of the cornucopia on her little dip, on her little wooden board. It was very cute, like if you were going to do your Thanksgiving table. And then I always go to the comments. And there were a few people that were like, this is really cute. But the majority of people were like, dumb, wasted time, dumb.
Yeah, it's not a waste of time.
They're like, what a waste. Does anybody even eat that? Oh, you didn't, like, and they were like, that probably took you hours and it's so dumb and nobody cares. Like, these comments were really nasty. And I was like, listen, if she wants to make a Pillsbury Crescent cornucopia for her Thanksgiving table and share it with the world, can you not just let her be?
No, but I think that's
like,
great.
And I thought it was great. I thought if I went to somebody's house for Thanksgiving and that was sitting on the table, I'd be like, wow.
I mean, that's what brings the joy. You know what doesn't bring the joy?
Joy? A plastic dish on a table.
A plastic platter from Foodland.
Yeah.
Of vegetables and dip.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I know sometimes we have to do these things.
And sometimes it's fine.
Sometimes we have to do these things because we're left with no other means or it's last minute or whatever, or we haven't given ourselves enough preparation
but it's
time.
also the act of being prepared.
Yeah.
And being ready and being that good hostess or that that woman that wants to put the effort in and make people smile. And one of the comments even said that. What's wrong with a plastic vegetable tray from the grocery store? Well, nothing, I suppose, but I mean, if you want to
nothing, but I'm sick of them. If anybody wants to,
if
anybody wants to, my opinion, I'm sick of them.
That's what somebody said in the comments, though. What's wrong with that? You got to do all this. Well, I don't know, because she wants to bring joy to her family and her, have a beautiful Thanksgiving. I don't know, like
I know that extra preparation means that you actually
care.
Yeah. Right, you actually care.
You put some thought and effort into this.
She said, I was watching some sort of clip of a woman peeling mushrooms. And they said,
why do you could peel a mushroom?
Well, you just peel the skins off. And she says, this is what I do for the very first thing is I peel the mushrooms. And somebody said, well, isn't that a waste of time? Mm-hmm. And she said, no, I don't think it is. She said, because it takes...
Just plain and simple like that.
She said, because then I know that I have cared enough.
Yeah.
Right?
And you know what? I'm going to tell you something, and I don't know if we said this in the podcast yet, but we might have. But it did just happen recently where you told my daughter, because we were driving somewhere, and we said something. She said, that's dumb.
Yeah.
And you turned to her and you said to my daughter, you said, you can't say that. You can't, because it was something she didn't even know anything about, too.
Right, yeah.
She said, my mom said, you can't say that's dumb. You can say you don't want to do it. You can say you don't like it, or, you're not a fan of that, or whatever. Well, I can't remember what it is we were talking about.
Something stupid.
So it was, whatever. But you were like, you can't say that's dumb. And it was like I went on a trip to PEI.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Anna Green Gables fan. And somebody said to me, well, that's dumb. Why would you want to do that? Well, you can say you don't like Anna Green Gables. You could say you don't want to go to PEI, but you can't say it's dumb.
Yeah.
It's not dumb, because it's not dumb to me. And it's just the same thing with all these things we see people do. And then you say to somebody, well, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Like same thing with peeling the mushrooms.
Right. Did she do something, Ava? Was there a point to this? Or you're just telling me that I said that to her?
No, I'm just saying it to say that we should be mindful of what we say to people.
Right. Yes.
Like, I'm just talking about this when you said, and somebody said that's a waste of time.
Just because you think it's a waste of time. Doing something that you would not waste your time on.
Doesn't mean it's dumb.
Or that they're doing something. I mean, as long as it's not sinful. Right. Okay. When we say these things, we're always taking out the fact that it's
not sinful.
It's not sinful.
We know it's not sinful.
Sinful is a given, okay?
Sinful is dumb.
Sin
is dumb. But to peel your mushrooms, that's a waste of time. Well, it's not to her.
Yes, it was important to her.
And I feel like that's where I have the problem with social media, because it's given all these people an outlet.
To call everybody dumb.
Call everybody dumb, and it's not dumb.
Right.
So I just wanted to, because I had never heard that before until you said it.
Oh, really?
That's why I'm saying it, because it was very profound to me. I was like, yeah, I had never been told that before. Just because you don't like it doesn't mean it's dumb.
It just means you don't like it.
It just means you don't like it.
Yeah.
So we do need to be very mindful of our words and very,
Well, I learned that.
Yeah.
Myself. That is 60 years of experience.
Yeah.
Because I have a brother that always wanted to live in a trailer at the park. And I said, that's dumb.
So
because I had no desire to live in a trailer. I never
park.
Really cared for the camping life.
No.
We did it occasionally.
That's exactly the point. I don't like camping at all. I don't like it at all.
Yeah.
But I would never say, oh, you're going camping? That's dumb.
Or, the other thing, too, is this particular brother doesn't like the country life.
Yeah.
And I can't imagine living I mean, I can. I've done it, so I can't imagine.
But I don't
want it. With lights and sirens and noise and everything. And so I always prefer the country. So he would always say, "Tell me that's dumb."
Yeah.
But it's not dumb. No. It's what I prefer. And so I learned that. Why was I
so
riled because he wanted to live in a trailer and I didn't thought it was. Why? This is years and years ago, right? And I was like, that's not dumb. It's just a preference, and he should be allowed to have his preference. And I should be, guess what? Quiet.
Because it bears no effect on my life.
It bears no effect on my life if he wants to live in a trailer.
Like this woman peeling her mushrooms, Bears no effect on your life that this woman's out there peeling her mushrooms.
Yeah, don't say it's dumb, people. It's just
not you.
It's just not you.
Yeah. So anyways, we'll leave it there. Things aren't dumb. Unless there's sin.
Unless there's sin, right.
So anyways, we hope that you all have a very blessed and holy week, because we are well over our hour here. But may God bless you always, and
Saint Teresa, pray for us.